What do you mean by break them? Cadence asked. Break them mentally, like how my mother broke after the banquet. Remember? She was practically bedridden when we left for the market. She was mentally vulnerable. And then when we get back, she says she's feeling better because Nyx came and spent time with her. That's Nightmare Moon's motivation. She's trying to ruin Hearthwarming and attempts to break us down so she can brainwash again. Shining, think about it. If that was true, then why hasn't something horrible happened to Twilight these past few months? Because Twilight is already brainwashed. She has been since this whole mess started. You think I'm brainwashed? Shining and Cadence turned, seeing Twilight standing in a gap between the curtains that separated the dressing area from the rest of the stage. Her eyebrows furrowed in her jaw in a frown. The last time she had glared so disapprovingly at Shining was when she had to find out about his wedding from a paper invitation. Twilight! I thought you were with Princess Luna. I was! But she finished talking with us, so we came back to the auditorium. And where's Nyx? Cadence asked, craning her neck to look past Twilight. She didn't hear. No, I had her sit with Rarity while I was looking for you two. Twilight replied. Now, what's all this about me being brainwashed? Shining thinks Nyx caused the accident. Cadence explained, turning her own disapproving gaze on her husband. Twilight stood dumbstruck for a moment, before her lips tightened to a snarl. Are you crazy? That's what I've been asking him, Cadence muttered under her breath. Shining took a firm step forward, nose flaring. Don't gang up on me like this hasn't been before, or did you forget about the children of Nightmare? That was Spell Nexus, Shining, Twilight said. That was Spell Nexus being controlled by a part of Nightmare Moon. A part that Nyx destroyed! And who can verify that? Shining asked. What evidence do we have that it actually happened the way Nightmare Moon said it did? How do we know she didn't take it back as part of her? She saved Ponyville! She released Princess Celestia and Princess Luna. She gave up the throne! Twilight argued. And how do you know that wasn't part of her plan? Shining asked before pointing at Cadence. Nightmare Moon's forces knew Cadence was rallying a rebellion. The crystal heart blew somber into oblivion. Who's to say it couldn't do the same to her? Even if it couldn't, Cadence could have led the entire kingdom in rebellion as soon as she or some pony figured out a way to move the sun and moon. Nightmare Moon's rule was never going to be accepted. But, Shining continued, what if Nightmare Moon bided her time? What if she's faked her repentance so she could try and take over again? This time with no pony challenging her rule. Who will rebel if she was given the throne by the princesses, once she supposedly grows back into her power? Shining, this whole theory of yours hints on the idea that Nyx has been trying to brainwash us, and she's already brainwashed Twilight, Cadence said. Nothing has happened to Twilight since Nyx gave up her throne. She hasn't had a mental breakdown of any sort. So how exactly did Nyx brainwash her? Nightmare Moon didn't brainwash Twilight in the past few months. It was last spring, when Spell Nexus used a drop of Twilight's blood to bring Nightmare Moon back. What? Twilight snapped. Think about it! Shining shouted back. I've read the reports, Twilight. You told the guards that you took Nightmare Moon into your home because you weren't sure who she was. That you didn't want to send her to Celestia unless you were sure she was, in fact, Nightmare Moon. Then you started taking care of her. Then you started to care for her. What if that was all caused by a brainwashing spell done by Spell Nexus, or even Nightmare Moon herself? What if the blood was meant to give Nightmare Moon the power to control you, to influence you? For all we know, the only reason you care for her, the only reason you can't see the obvious danger, is because of a spell! Shining! Cadence snapped. You know it makes sense, Cadence! He shouted back at her. When I was brainwashed by the Changeling Queen, I ignored that everything seemed wrong about her. I just thought you were nervous about the wedding. But Twilight couldn't have been brainwashed into loving Nyx, says the alicorn who could spread love like cheap, chalky, hearts and hooves day candy, Shining shouted at his wife. You two just don't want to admit it. The only reason why Twilight took care of Nightmare Moon, the only reason she cares for her now, is because of a spell. Shut up! Twilight's horn was glowing, and her mane and tail were floating from the sheer amount of rage-driven magic pouring off her. But before she entered the rage shift, Twilight turned and began to stomp. She stomped in circles. A small part of her was seeing Shiny's logic. Spell Nexus was a brilliant unicorn, and Celestia had all the records of the resurrection spell sealed. The police who knew about it sworn to secrecy. There was one way to know for sure exactly what that blood drop was supposed to do in the ritual. But then Twilight's mind snapped back to herself. No! She shouted, turning back and stomping up the shining armor. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. I still can't forgive myself for letting Princess Celestia convince me that Nyx was a danger, and I'm not going to doubt her now. But, Twilight, Shining tried to protest, as Twilight turned and stalked away from him. Don't Twilight me, Shining, she shouted as she reached the curtains. Nyx is my daughter, whether you like it or not, and until you fix your attitude, I don't want you anywhere near her or me. She glanced back, tears streaming from her race-filled eyes. Nyx and I are going home, back to Ponyville. I hope you have a heartwarming eve without us. Twilight didn't look back again. She threw open the curtains, planning to head back into the stage, and from there into the auditorium, only to find a very stunned Rarity standing on the other side. There was a moment of silence as the two unicorns registered each other's presence. Twilight then began to hastily try to wipe away her tears. Rarity, what are you doing here? We're coming to get you. The gods have asked everybody to leave so they can secure the hall. We? Twilight asked, cocking an eyebrow. Rarity nodded, began to look over her shoulder. Why, yes. Nyx and I. Rarity froze. Nyx had been just behind her, clinging close to her after what happened, but now she was gone. In the blink of an eye, Rarity and Twilight galloped across the stage. They came to a stop at the very edge of the boards, looking over the auditorium, which was practically empty. The guard was guiding a few final ponies out of the far doors. Spike and the rest of her friends were waiting with Twilight Velvet and Nightlight in the front row. But Nyx was nowhere to be seen. Rarity, Twilight began, tremor in her voice. How much did you and Nyx hear?